The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Welcome to one more show of the Table Topics, and today John is not here with me, he's out of town, but it's a very nice opportunity for me to bring on a good friend, and thank you, Chip, for accepting my invitation, and thank you for, it's your first time on my show. I went on your show before, but your first time on my show, so thank you for accepting.
It's a pleasure to be here, Carlos. You've been on our show numerous times, so it's nice to be here.
First of all, we're going to talk about city and city issues. I know it's your.
You know, it's one of my. I hate to talk about that.
It's like your vanilla ice cream, right, with the chocolate on top.
That's right. Oh, yeah. Well, there's so much to talk about.
I know, and I'm going to promise you, I'm going to try not to laugh, okay? Because lately we cannot talk about the city without laughing.
That's right. Actually, just before I left the house, I watched the 5 o'clock news. There was a home invasion in Fall River. So I didn't get the particulars on the home invasion, but there was a home invasion. So again, Fall River tops the news, but not in a good way. So,
and that was going to be my first thing that I was going to ask you was for your city statement, for your city address. So give me your city address, state of city address.
The state of the city. Well, we still continue to be one of the, if not the lowest in per capita income. We are still have the dubious distinction of being rated the most dangerous city in the Commonwealth, second in New England. I look around our city and I look around the Flint, which, as you know, is near and dear to me. I was born and brought up in the Flint. I still live in the Flint. I don't see all these improvements that they talk about, and you know, maybe it's for the 1%ers, maybe it's for the certain people, but I just don't see it. You know, on our show, and you know, you've been on the show. We've talked about various issues. The city's got a lot of work, and you know, I stayed in this city because I care about this city. But the reality is, it seems that our politicians don't want to accept the reality. They're always trying to sugarcoat everything. You know, they're trying to sell us a car with a new paint job and no engine.
And we were off the air for 4 or 5 weeks because the station needed extra time. So with campaign time, so everybody had to come 3 minutes after 3 minutes after 3 minutes, you know, times how many candidates. So they needed time, but we're back. And the first time that we're back after the famous election.
World famous.
Exactly.
World famous.
Now we can say it. Now we can say
we are world famous.
That's famous.
We are world famous, and even we're up there with Brexit. So that's it. We made the national and international news on how sometimes convoluted we can be in Fall River.
Well, one of the things that I think that I want to talk to you today is one of the projects that this administration put on couple years ago. And I went in front of the city council and I went against. And that cost me the friendship of the mayor, because since that day, or the day after that I went in front of the city council and I said that I was against the project. At the time, coordinator, the neighborhood coordinator, made an appointment to go see me for events and to help me with events, and I got ambushed by the mayor and his manager at the time, and he was in office only for 6 months, but she was still campaigning for him. Since then, we never spoke. Since that day, we never spoke, and that was November 14, 2016. a very famous day that 11 o'clock, the mayor came to my office. At 3 o'clock, I went down to City Hall for Mr. Mike Hoare be sworn Chief of Staff. So I will never forget that day, the day and the time. But what we got and why I was against streetscapes. Like I said in front of the city council, was tried before by Ed Lambert on Pleasant Street. The good thing is some proof still there that happened, but why and the reason that it was done never came to accomplish, because was sold the same way. Abandoned buildings were going to be sold, a lot of business going to move in, was not going to be more trash on the streets, and all of that. And this streetscapes from this administration got sold with the same stamp. What we got? We got banners that I want to show you and show my viewers. We got this. $750 per banner that lasts. This one, it's up probably for a month. I got another one here. And that's not wind. That's the way it stands right now. Without wind. That's the way it stands. And the reason I'm took the picture of this one in here, you can show Michelle. Our friends from Niagara put those banners up 3 years ago. Look at that.
They put them up.
They put them up.
Well, there's the difference. Government didn't do it. If you let the government do anything, that's what happens. Sure, if we look at the other flag, we'll see what happens when government does anything, and when people actually do it. So that's one of my problems with government. So
and I have one more. Show the other one.
Yep.
You remember this one?
Yep. A picture is worth 1,000 words.
You know how long this banner is up? Streetscapes of Ed Lambert.
Wow.
That's how long this banner is up. Never got touched after that.
Well, again, a testament to the ineptitude of government. But, you know, streetscapes.
The difference too, Chip, our banners probably cost us $150.
Yeah.
They banners $750.
Yeah, but it probably cost them 49 cents for that banner. But yours at $150 probably cost you $149.
Exactly.
But again, we get to that. And the problem is the people, as you said, they buy the same old story. This is not the first time, the second time. We've seen streetscapes all over the country, not only in Fall River, not work. The reality is that if you go down to Miami, Florida, they took South Beach and they renovated, they spent millions and millions of dollars. But the city is still one of the worst cities in the world to live in for jobs and for issues outside of tourism. So this, number one, it doesn't work. Number two, you have to have a priority. There's no priorities in this city. Look at where we did streetscapes. We have taxpayers, and we don't have very many of them left in the city, whose streets look like Fallujah. And they have to wait and drive down pothole-infested streets while the street that coincidentally the mayor lived on at one time until he got evicted was taken care of. A street basically to nowhere. People in Fall River can barely find Purchase Street, let alone people from, like, we're going to have this mass of tourists come down to look at the new buildings. You know, I've never believed in in a community that's rich, that everybody's working and we got plenty of money, fine, invest in streetscapes, because you're going to have people utilizing those streets. You may have tourists. But in a city like Fall River, we've got to first take care of our people. We've got to worry about the crime. We've got to worry about people, taxpayers' streets, not streets to nowhere.
Well, first of all, I would like to see a plan and why those areas got picked. Because there has to be a reason those areas got picked versus other areas. Was because to bring more clients to business? Was because that to bring the value of properties up? Has to be a reason and why those particular areas got picked.
Or your friends live on that street and own property on that street? Can we put that on the list?
I have a few that
Do we
live
have,
there.
yeah, do we have?
But we're not,
no,
we're
no, no,
not
I'm not
that
talking
good
about,
friends.
I'm not talking about your friends. I'm talking about the mayor's friends.
I know what you're saying.
You know, and obviously that's one of the issues. The issue is streetscapes. Why do you pick that area? I know that we have a lot of talk about why things are done, and that's one of the great things about being a politician. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. All these stories and cons have been run before all over the country. You know, all you got to do is turn on and go look at some news articles from someplace out in the Midwest or the far West, and you'll see what they said about when they wanted to spend millions and millions of dollars on streetscapes, and you just turn around and say, this is what it's going to do in Fall River. We're going to bring in businesses. There's not enough room to have a ton of businesses on Purchase Street. I mean, what do you got? A block where there's actually businesses? After that, it's residential. So, I mean, if for a person with a moderate degree of intelligence would realize that Purchase Street is probably the last place in the city of Fall River you would want to spend millions of dollars on for streetscapes. Spend it where there's businesses or where there's a potential for business. How are they going to put more businesses on Purchase Street? Let's look at Purchase Street, okay? Starts at Bedford Street. What's there? You got a bank on the corner. On the other side, you've got a building that's occupied, and it's partially a bank and its offices, and it melds into North Main Street. Then after that, you got a parking lot. And another parking lot for the bank.
Yep.
And then you got a little business. You got a little coffee shop. And then you got another little business. And you got the back of a business that's actually on North Main Street. And after that, you got houses. That's a great place to invest millions and millions of dollars because it's going to stimulate the economy.
But the area was so good that got extended.
That's right. To take care of somebody who's made a lot of positive votes. Well, like I said, look, you and I, unfortunately, we're the people who pay the taxes, who live in a community, and we can look at their wonderland. We can look down the rabbit hole into their wonderland that they create when they sell this bill of goods to people. But we have to live in the reality of the city of Fall River. When I drive up Purchase Street and I look at the buildings and I look at the way it's structured, that would be the last place in the world as an investor. There's nothing there to do. What are they going to do? Bulldoze all the houses, take them by eminent domain, and build businesses? I mean, and you were justifiably right going in front of the council opposing it, because these flags don't bring people to Fall River. Make it here slogans do not give people jobs. We've got so many problems in this city about people getting jobs and about stimulating the economy by having people have money. It's just, look, when it comes to flags and streetscapes, to me, we need to worry about crime. We need to worry about education. We need to worry about getting an educated workforce, putting people back to work. Because when we had people working in the mills, Pleasant Street didn't have one empty store. I grew up in a Flint. I walked up Pleasant Street every Friday night and every Saturday night and half of my life.
And
and there was never an open store. Why? People were working.
And you know something? People still looking to rent on Pleasant Street.
Yeah.
The problem we have on Pleasant Street, it's abandoned buildings that cannot get open, cannot get permits to be fixed because the owners don't pay their tax. So it's like, it's a circle. And it's been a circle, and until now, we're still looking for the administration that's going to cut the cord and say we need to start here to get these people back on board, paying their tax, so they can get permits to fix the front stores, so they can rent the stores, collect money, and pay back the city the tax. But until then, until we find that person that's going to cut that cord, we're going to, and it's been for 3 or 4 administrations already, they just go in circles, and the problem never gets resolved. The problem is they don't want to hear the people that have experience, don't have the degrees, don't have the diploma on the wall, but have life experience to tell them how we can fix it.
Well, there you go again, talking common sense. And that's the least common sense when it comes to government. You know that, I know that. Why didn't we spend some money and some time getting these people in, trying to work out a system where they pay their taxes back, trying to get them back on their feet, get businesses running? But it all comes back to, do we have people to spend money? Money is, you know, money is in reality, that is what creates the economy. You know, that's what creates the economy. When you have people working and they have discretionary cash, that's where every store in the Flint was occupied. Every store on South Main Street was occupied. What was the basic difference? We had people with jobs, not the greatest jobs in the world, but they had jobs and they had money, and they used to go out to eat every Friday night, and they used to go shopping, and on Sunday they used to go to breakfast somewhere when they went to church. And all those stores were filled. There were hundreds and hundreds of people walking up and down South Main Street and Pleasant Street on Friday and Saturdays. And even on Sunday, they'd walk around. But why? Because people had money. But we don't care about that. We worry about fixing our friends' buildings. We worry about putting our money in our friends' pockets and listening to the politicians.
So, and my problem now is, now that we're spending this money, is maintaining. Because we're spending, and we need to maintain it. And I have to give kudos to, was a gentleman that used to go around the neighborhoods, and when we had a problem like with a flagpole or something, we used to call him, and you will go and fix it. And you used to put the decorations. Back then was decorations up on the poles for Christmas and everything. Now they just go around, they put a light around the pole, and that's it, it's done. A guy with the lad on his back, he does that whole Pleasant Street. When before, to put a good decoration, you need a bucket truck and all of that. But you know what I found him now? He's painting the door frames at City Hall. So they took him out of the streets to maintain, okay, stuff, and they put him back at City Hall, painting door frames.
Well, I mean, what better place when we look at what government does, truly? If you go to City Hall, I invite all you Fall River residents and taxpayers, go to Fall River. Walk into the elevator on the first floor, look at the floor, look at the walls. Go to the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth floor.
Yep.
And look at it. Looks like it did 15, 20 years ago. Go to the sixth floor. When the doors open, you're in Xanadu. That's it. You're in the ivory tower. They got a beautiful floor. He's got a bathroom that a previous mayor made with $500 towels in the shower, and this is everything that's wrong with government on this and all levels. That the government's job is not to take care of the people; it's to take care of themselves and their friends, and that's what they do. And these programs have never in the last 30 or 40 years benefited the public. You're right. You were right then. You're right now. Streetscapes was a colossal waste of money, and these flags are a joke. It's just that simple.
And that's one of your phrases. It's again the lipstick.
That's right.
That's the lipstick.
That's right.
Let's the way I see it, it's let's fit the pig, make sure he gets nice and big, and then we put the lipstick on. Yeah. But these people don't even look how the pig looks like. They just want to put the lipstick.
And if they do, they'll spin the story, Carlos. You know what politicians are good at. They establish the narrative. They don't talk about truth. They talk about their reality. They talk about, oh, I'm going to build the future. Everything they do is in the future, and that future never comes. Because 3 years down the road, when everything they promised hasn't been around, they promise some new stuff. It's like they fit the narrative. It's just like looking at politicians on all levels. You look at the federal level. Look at the narrative. Have they fixed health care? They've had hearings 3 or 4 years ago. They're having hearings again about the high cost of drugs. They don't do anything. They talk a lot, but nothing ever gets done. Unlike you or I, if my roof leaks, I got to fix it. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my house. In the government, you talked about maintaining buildings. When's the last time you ever saw a city building maintained? What they do is they raise our taxes to build a building. They let it fall into disrepair. They pay a whole bunch of people to maintain that building, and they don't. And then 20 or 30 or 40 years later, they go, we need the bond. We got to build another building. They don't, see, you have to take care of your car. You have to take care of your house. Government doesn't. They just go in and they spin the narrative, and we end up on the end. But, you know, as I say on the show, I blame the citizens at Fall River, the taxpayers, allowing them to look at the CPA, one of your favorite subjects, you know. Where's all that money gone since they've been taking money out of tax? Never for anything that really helped the people. Look at everything they say. Everything they say is a distortion of truth.
And the funny thing is now they're using the CPA money, a lot of these projects, to pay for stuff that the city should be maintaining. And now it's like we're gonna take from ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a big project. But one thing that I learned, especially on this last election, was if you don't agree, you're a hater. If you complain, you're a crying baby. So this is how the answers, because they don't have actually answers for you. So they have to shut you down somehow. So don't complain, because if you complain, you know, you a baby a crybaby. Or if you disagree, you're a hater. So I have my opinion. I will give my opinion for who asks me, but it's a lot of people out there that think they know everything.
Well,
but they don't know. They know what one side says. They don't know the whole story.
Well, they know what. Look, it's you know, I've been called everything obstructionist, everything else, but the reality is, I'll give you a little Eastern philosophy. We're in the West, but Lao Tzu, the man who wrote the Tao Te Ching, The Way of Life, said, if you worry about what people say or think about you, you'll always be their prisoner. Remember one thing, everything's semantics. If you're fighting for something I like and I want, you're a champion. You're a patriot. If you're against me, then you're a communist, you're a rebel, you're negative. It's baloney.
So people don't have opinions anymore.
But that's politics. Real people have to look beyond a rhetoric. Just look at what Ocasio-Cortez just said. She said that they passed a constitutional amendment to stop Franklin Delano Roosevelt from getting into office again, and that constitutional amendment wasn't introduced until 2 years after he died. And it didn't come in for another 3 years after that. So, but people listen to that, and they'll spin anything. Of course, now they fact checks her, and the other side now is beating her up with it. But remember, it's all about you're a negative this, you're a negative that, and but the reality is, people, again, it's the people's fault. What is our government, Carlos? Why did when they came to this government, they came to this country and created a government? The reality is that we have a tripartite system. We have the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. They're not always supposed to agree. It is a checks and balance system. See, the politicians have told a big lie so much, they've gotten a lot of the people to believe it. And that's what Goebbels, Hitler's propaganda minister, said. If you tell a big enough lie often enough, people will begin to believe it. The reality is, look, if he's doing something right, you're supposed to agree. But if he's doing something wrong, you're supposed to say it's wrong. Even one of our former greatest presidents, Theodore Roosevelt, said, it is fine to criticize the president when he's not doing the right thing, but give him credit when he does the right thing. He understood that. But today, that's the political con. If you're against me, you're negative, you're an obstructionist, you're this, you're that. That's baloney. The city council's job is to be a check and balance. When he's spending money in the wrong places, they're supposed to stop it. They're not supposed to let him take money and use it for pay raises for his friends while the taxpayer again is paying with CPA money for stuff that the city's responsible to use. And that's the problem. The problem is the people allow themselves to be sheep. If they're sheeple, they're not people, they're sheeple. And if they ever want this government to change, they have to vote for new candidates, new blood, and keep putting them in and out and throwing them out until we get people who are going to pay attention and realize that you got to work for the people. You got to listen to us. You can't call me negative when I say, look, It's wrong to spend $1 zillion on Purchase Street. Why don't you fix the taxpayers' streets? You know, you got to listen to people. And, you know, that kind of thing, it's, you know, anybody who listens to people who call other people names, it means they don't have an argument against them. If you can prove me wrong, if you can prove that Fall River doesn't have, you know, that has the highest per capita income in the state, prove me wrong. Prove the federal government wrong. Prove all the statistics that are out there throughout the state and throughout the country that are in national articles written about Fall River. If I'm wrong, I'm not being negative when I say that.
Yeah.
I want Fall River to improve, but it's like an alcoholic who wants to quit alcohol but wants to hang around in a bar room 24 hours a day.
First you have to admit that you have a problem.
Admit that you have a exactly.
Exactly.
So, but you know, you know, one thing I learned a long time ago is I've been in this game a little bit longer than you. You know,
Just a little bit.
I don't pay attention to anything because any time I go in front of the council, if it's my opinion, I'll say it's my opinion. But when I got facts, I'll lay them on the table. I'll tell them where I got those facts and say, prove me wrong. Prove the United States Census Bureau wrong. Prove whatever agency created that. Like, I remember during the election, Cesar said this city is much safer now. It's no, and they manipulated the statistic. They said we're in the top 25. We were 21st out of 25 cities with over 40,000 people. Even that statistic, we're in the bottom 1/3. There's still 67% of the cities safer than us when they took only the cities that would let us manage to get in the top 25. So, you know, the old saying...
The numbers could be the same, depending how you present them.
Well, like they always said, and especially politicians, figures don't lie, but liars can figure.
Listen, I need to bring you back because we need to talk about the budget. Because this year, I think, since I remember, that this year budget's going to be a big problem. Not just with the school department, because they're they're not over budget, but they increase. And a lot of that increase has to do with transportation. Again, coming back to schools being in places because the land got sold to people that were not supposed to buy, and so they could not get the permits to build the schools. The school's never supposed to be there because now you have traffic problems. Now we need to put kids in buses, but they're not responsible to bring the kids there. So that's going back to friends receiving, you know, favors. That's one thing. Another big problem is going to be the trash. Because, you know, we're not going to get, the trash not going to be picked up for free. We eliminated those $2 million, but the trash is not going to be picked up for free. The problem we're having already, and because I have friends that pick up trash, is they're concerned already that the contract they have is for purple bags, not for regular bags. What that means that the trash is going to increase because now people are going to recycle as much. People's going to clean their houses, clean their backyards, and they're going to put everything on the trash, okay, because they don't have to pay. And we have probably 30, 35, 30, 40% of people that the trash not getting picked up by the city now, but they're going to come back now. So that's going to increase. So if they presented the budget for $3 million, so we don't need those $2 million because it's going to cost us $3 million. I'm just giving numbers. $3 million. You're going to add another $1 million for those that going to come back to the city, and then we're going to increase probably another $500,000 for those that's going to bring trash from outside. Because now remember, you don't have to put them on bags. You can come from Westport or somewhere and just throw the trash on our sidewalks. So that's going to be a very interesting budget because it's a lot of things that was painted, you know, with nice lipstick. That the lipstick's gonna, you know, it's gonna come off, and we're gonna see how this is gonna end. On the other side, you have your, that you participate to, the retirement, which it's not looking too good to, because according to Kathy, they're falling short already. She's already saying that it's no money. they don't have much
there's
money.
no money because they didn't put in enough money for 10 years. It's a problem that they created. And
Yeah.
so we just scratched the surface. But
Yeah, you need to
are
come
right.
back.
The money has to come from somewhere. And you know where that's going to come from? You, the taxpayer, because they'll figure out a way to make up that money with taxes and fees.
Wow, this half an hour went so fast. Thank you, Chip, for coming. And you're definitely going to come back. We have a lot of more issues to go over. And see you next week for one more topic, the table topics.
Thank you, Chief. Carlos, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.